We will cover some more of this, but before we do, we will actually look at one more example here. And it's actually going to relate to what we just talked about with the structure. So clearly we have a low that was put in here. I'm not going to use that wick and then up again because that's one candle. I can't do that. It's cheating. We have this lower high. We had a sweep of the low. We had a change of structure. Take the low, close above the high. All is fine. All is well. Do you have any evidence of supply failure? Yes, you do. You got it right here. Because price came into that with a 15-minute wick, wicked into it, and then closed out of it. That's a reaction. Because if you went on a lower time frame, you're going to see a black candle or two in this little circle coming out of that supply zone. That's fractal supply because it's an order block with imbalance. You can call it fractal. You can call it refined. You can call it peanut butter supply. It does not matter. By the way, guys, you can call it whatever you'd like to. So reacted off that bearish order block or bearish supply and reacted out. So we know that we have a demand zone that was solid right here. Because demand caused what? Caused supply's failure, which therefore caused a break in structure. Not just any break in structure. Now we need to look at the overall narrative here. Let's go to the 1 hour very quickly. So on the 1 hour time frame, structure was down, up, down, up, down, up. Very, very incredibly aggressive break. Could be a mitigation off the new demand zone that we just formed based on that transition flip, and then a higher high. And you can go ahead and use it, as big as a block as you want to, or you can go back to that 15 and really refine it down, or even to a lower time frame like the 10. You can take this guy if you'd like to. We'll just overlap them because we're just doing this for example's sakes. We're not trying to get too fancy schmancy. We just want to play this through. So let's see if we actually react off that. I guess I should have played it on a higher time frame. So it actually came down. So this is fine. Now, many people are probably like, well, no, that didn't work. Well, it did work because a wick doesn't really indicate for sure that this is not valid. Why? Because if you knew Wyckoff and you watched the Wyckoff series, if you didn't, that's probably your next stop. But if you watch my range and Wyckoff series, you would know that for every single model of accumulation and distribution, you have to take the first tap. So is that okay, or is it acceptable behavior to wait for that first tap? Because remember, even though this overall bullish structure on the 1 hour was this, the order flow expectation would have been a higher low and a higher high, you actually developed bearish structure in between then. So you had this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy forming. So really, you were shorting against this local internal trend. Even though, yes, there's a bullish trend, there's also a bearish trend, and that's kind of tricky. So what do you do in a situation like that? The wiser decision would have been to wait for a structure transition of any kind before getting involved. Of any kind, really. Let's play it through a little bit more, actually. I didn't mean to cancel that. But yeah, the smarter decision would have been to wait for that for sure, right? So if we go back to the 5, did it actually have a market structure change coming out of that zone? It actually did on the low. Technically, it did on the low, I believe. Let me see. So we came down to here. We came up to here. That's a given. Yep. And then we would have used this point here. And then, oh no. We didn't on the 5. I thought we did, but we did not because you're using the 2 candle tactic and would have saved your butt here. So really, this is lower low, lower high. And then you had basically a lower low right here. Because that's only 1 up candle, 1 black candle. 2 black candles and another 1 up candle. Even though this is 2 up candles in a row, it's not valid because you can't use down, up, and then down, up again because it didn't go lower on this right wick. If this right wick had went lower, then this would have been the structure change. But that's not valid at all. Maybe it was like a 2-minute break or something of that nature. If that was the case, and it was like a 2 or 3 minute break, then in theory, you had a transition between here, and then you actually had that fractal demand holding for one more tap on the high, very similar to last time. But ultimately, this supply zone remained in control for a move to push down again. So when you've seen consolidation to this extent, you should have known that something else was in the works here. And it was more than likely what? A range model. And from there, we could have played a range deviation of the downside because we know that there's liquidity on this side. If you watch my liquidity videos, and you've also would have seen liquidity on this side as well. So you could have shorted sweeps up here and long sweeps down here. But once you've seen that you're in demand, which I hope you guys would have seen that here, based on, the analysis itself. And we knew that 1 hour structure went like this, and we're waiting for this basically. then really you don't have any business shorting up here. That's really, really, really risky. Look, you actually had a deviation up there without a structure change, of course, but still a deviation, and that backfired pretty quickly, didn't it? So really, this was an accumulation model, or a partial accumulation model, not an entire one, but partial. If we zoom over, we can actually see that it was a full-on model 1. It's no longer a partial model because now you have a wick 1, a wick 2 that goes lower, and then the third wick goes even lower, and the overall Wyckoff model would have ended up like this, right? Try not to get too off topic because I'm trying to keep this all about the demand to supply flips and what have you. But, I realize if you guys are watching this, this is going to be in a section where it's basically like putting it all together anyway. So, but yeah, you ended up with this Wyckoff model eventually. And I don't think the 1 hour trend ended up fulfilling itself. I think it ended up, if memory serves me correctly, I think it went lower eventually, or like lower here or something like that. But we'll see before we end this video off. Yeah. So ultimately it failed itself, right? Well, how did it fail? Well, it turned into a redistribution, 1, 2, 3, and then it died off. So Wyckoff's definitely good to know, right? Because it would save you on trades, but overall, you don't win on every single one, right? Even if you did that correctly, you could have had a couple of trades off that little zone there. But again, you're not going to win on every model or every single chalk and flip, but you'll get on most of them, right? Or transition and flip, whatever you guys want to call it. I usually call it transition, but same idea, really.